It's got everything a house does. It's just 20 feet underground.
Well, what about a tree or a window that's not looking at some worms? I mean, that's one of the main things I like about my house, is it's not 20 feet under the ground. That's like saying it does everything a leg does, except it's been chopped off and it's floating down the sea. Are you thinking about living off-grid? Is all the chaos in the world, all the conflict, all the fear and dread making you think, I want to get right off this grid? Well, whether you're a billionaire thinking about creating a bunker, or someone who's been deprived of economic opportunity because of the way that the pandemic and AI evolution is affecting your life, the chances are that off-grid living might be for you. Let's look at alternative social models, whether you're a billionaire, hi billionaires, or someone that's not a billionaire. Hello everyone else.
You are one of those lucky people that can travel anywhere.
Yes, ma'am, I know.
And they sometimes call you nomads.
Why are people considering this? Concerns about health, personal safety, security and cybersecurity are leading to increasing interest in off-grid living, with communities growing across America. The Oscar-winning film Nomadland looked at what happens when people denied access to industry because of the way that the workforce is changing, the way that manufacturing is changing, the way that energy production is changing, the way that technology is taking human jobs. What happens when people, in the case of that film, a middle-class, middle-aged person has to step out of society and find a new way of life? Are these new ways of life actually, as it says in the film, a return to a kind of pioneering tradition? Or are they something to be ashamed of? In my podcast, Under the Skin, I spoke to Yuval Noah Harari about the impact of artificial intelligence on society and the likelihood of increasingly diverse ways of living.
Yeah, they were very concerned. I was struck by the first question that was, about the useless class.
He's talking about, me and him did this event at a school in South London, where Yuval Noah Harari sort of told the kids, hey, you guys should all learn a program if you want to participate in the economy. And I said, shouldn't they be focusing on new systems, new political systems, new social systems, rather than kowtowing to the relentless robot march of power? And of course, Yuval Noah Harari saw the world differently from me. He explains that now.
And somebody saying, but wait, there is a useless class already.
Some would argue that's the upper class, elite classes that contribute very little to society while hoovering up all of its resources. Vacuuming up, shall we? Let's not use a brand name. Oh, they've got us by the balls.
It's not a forecast for 20 or 30 years from now. There are people who are viewed, or even view themselves as useless, as outside the system right now.
That's the problem with post-industrial or technological societies, is utility is presumed. This is society, this is how the society works, and if you don't operate within that society, you can F off. Well, that's already at play, of course. That's what homelessness is. That means you can't participate in this economic system because you don't have the skills to exchange your labour for money, so you are surplusness. That's why I'm struck when I meet people that are living in a different way, like the woman Anatar that I met and talked about in my Audible original Revelation. She'd set up her own system of living in the woods. Now, she wasn't literally off-grid because she was getting electricity from somewhere, and I don't think it was solar. She was plugged into something, but she was living in the woods in a dignified way. It wasn't like she'd fallen through the cracks of society, that she was spilled on the side of the road. No, she'd got like a kitchen in there. Like, I was sort of amazed she'd set up a separate sort of tent space for a bedroom. What I mean to say is it wasn't like, oh, this is a person living out their mental illness and they're decaying, let's watch them atrophy at the side of the road. No, it was a person flourishing in a different system. It sparked something in me. It made me feel there are different ways of living. Don't you continually ask yourself, would I actually be more happy if instead of trying to compete and grab hold and grasp and keep this shit going, if I just went, I'm not going to try anymore, I'm going to go and live different. I'm going to live in a different community. I'm going to set myself free from the tyranny of economics and try and live differently. Some people, some of you, might not even feel that you have that as an opportunity. Me, I feel like afraid to. I'm like a prisoner of comfort. No, but I've got my stuff here, but perhaps this is something we're all going to have to start considering.
So this was, something very sad to hear, but I think very true.
Yuval Noah Harari posits that a new unworking class will be created. Some people talk about universal basic income being a potential solution. But I feel like society should be created in order to serve humans, not humans should be created in order to serve society. As Mark Fisher always argued, and as I always tell you, mental illness is a social condition. A lot of us start to go crazy because we think, oh God, I don't know what to do. I can't cope with the pressures. I can't cope with the financial pressures. I'm going to pay all these bills. Oh, short circuit. Those are not natural considerations.
In a secret location in Kansas, what was once a nuclear missile base, now in private hands.
It's not only people that can't compete in our economic culture that are considering what will happen after the apocalypse or if society crumbles, it's people that are at the very pinnacle of our culture. They're rising. I'm not doing a pyramid because of the Freemasons. Like I said, the people at the very pinnacle of our culture are also considering what happens post-society, what happens after the fall. Let's look at the phenomena of billionaire bunkers.
Meet Doomsday Entrepreneur Larry Hall.
Doesn't the concept of a doomsday entrepreneur trouble you? I'm an entrepreneur. Oh, brilliant. When does the money all come in? Doomsday!
He's converted a Cold War silo into a post-apocalyptic refuge for the very rich.
There's been an apocalypse. It's time to help those unsung heroes, our old friends, the very rich. Come on in, very rich. Help us, help us. We truly are very rich. Why's your hand out for? I'm just offering you a small tip.
So you've put in these big doors here?
These are all new. Yeah, these are new.
I love that he's like appraisal of a billionaire bunker, the raison d'etre of which presumes the end of society. It's being discussed like he's on Grand Designs. These doors, they're all new, they're all new. This is where we put the dead bodies of the people that couldn't make it. We started to use children's corpses as a fuel resource in there. Oh, that's brilliant, that's brilliant. I know, I thought of it. I'm a doomsday entrepreneur. It's what I do.
His clients believe America's approaching collapse, and when it does, they'll need somewhere to hide from crowds of desperate people.
There's a crowd of desperate people, and we are very, very rich. What should we do? We're very rich, got all these resources, crowd of people in need. Hide!
The facility is very well fortified, and guns and grenades and stuff won't bother this place.
Guns and grenades. How can you have as the sort of key modus operandi of your billionaire bunker attacking? That's us! And they're attacking. We've got these guns and grenades. Who are you throwing at? It's not going to be zombies. It's not going to be aliens. It's you. That's for you. And in a way, like I've said to you before, that law implies violence, i.e., you don't pay a traffic fine. In the end, a guy's coming to take your TV or take you. This tells you the way things are going. Like, people that are in the know and can afford it are going, we best build some bunkers for that bit where everyone goes nuts and tries to come and kill us. Yeah, all right. What are the doors going to be like? They're going to be terrific.
When you get here and you hit a place that's nuclear hardened, that we can reach out and touch people. I mean, we don't have to let them come and damage the facility. We can keep them at bay.
He means by reach out and touch, I'm just going to reach out and touch you.
The survival complex has 12 stories of underground apartments and luxury facilities, each floor costing $3 million.
This is one of the condos, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath unit. This is the dining area. There's a jacuzzi tub here.
That's the wrong lesson that's been learned there, isn't it? It's like you've tutored an idiot child through, right? Have you seen what happens if you don't share, if you don't create a fairer society? Yes, sir. Well, what happens? We build an underground bunker and we carry on with exactly what we were doing. Oh.
The toilets are interesting. You can use them in a bidet mode. Everything from the water temperature to the spray patterns.
At the point that you're designing an underground toilet to wash feces off your underground ass because of the apocalypse, do you not think at that point we could divert some of these resources?
Plenty of room for all the stuff and very normal.
It's not that normal though, is it? Being in an underground bunker that you're in because everyone else is dead.
There's an underground farm to grow food and raise fish.
Address the actual problem. Don't build an underground fish farm next to the cinema rather than think, oh, do you know what? I don't need all this stuff. Look, you could level the same thing at me. The machine that creates this kind of solution is embedded in my head. It's in all of our heads. When I do these videos, I'm not doing them from a perspective of, hi, I've realised all this stuff, I'm here now. I'm with you, trying to work out what to do, not only about the external problems of this culture, but the impact of this culture on me, on my natural instincts and impulses and the way they've been controlled, harboured, harnessed, directed. So what is me anymore if I'm invisibly linked to ideologies as well as different people, all the kinds of relationships that we have? You know, at some point we're going to have to look at the only point of change is an inner one. That's the first thing that has to be altered. And I think that can only be done collectively. Alone, it's too terrifying to consider.
A cinema. So you could while away the apocalypse watching films here.
Well, you will have a certain amount of downtime where you want to not be bored.
You certainly will have some downtime because nothing exists anymore. Just a horrible wasteland, a constant reminder of the terrible decisions made. I think I might watch Terminator 2, then The Matrix, then look out the window, see if there's anything remotely different.
Even a swimming pool. If it sounds extraordinary, preparing for America's collapse, or prepping as they call it, is increasingly common in a country losing confidence in its government.
Perhaps the reason people, no matter where we fall on the economic scale, are considering off-grid or bunker living is because of the changes brought about by the pandemic and by, globalization unleashed as we've been experiencing it. During the pandemic, the collective wealth of American billionaires leapt by 1.62 trillion, or by 55%. This year's growth comes on top of a 19-fold increase in billionaire wealth over 31 years. The 1.3 trillion wealth gain could pay for a stimulus check of $3,900 for every one of the 331 million people in the United States. That's just a bit of wealth distribution chat there. American billionaires held over 4 times more wealth than the 165 million Americans in society's bottom half. Again, this is not a viable or sustainable distribution of resources. Over 76 million people, humans like you, lost work during the pandemic. Nearly 100,000 businesses have permanently closed. 12 million workers had lost employer-sponsored health insurance, and 24 million adults reported that their household had not had enough food in the past week. Those statistics point to a system failing. They point to the need for change. Obviously, billionaires are preparing in their way. Everybody should be looking at alternative ways of living.
Let's look at their track record. How would you rate the U.S. government's performance for Katrina? How would you rate it for Sandy? I wouldn't be giving them any stellar grades. And those are relatively localized events. So I think that would be a bad bet to think that the government's going to be there to save you.
It's from quite a libertarian perspective, i.e. individual versus state. But in a way, the creation of communities that are extraneous or at least external to existing systems is precisely what's being discussed in Nomadland and in other YouTube videos about off-grid living. What happens if the state fails? What happens if corporations, in the pursuit of their objectives, which is profit and only serving you as an inadvertent byproduct, what happens if it reaches an irreversible point of decline? Well, we're going to have to set up alternative systems. Most of us are just carrying on with life thinking, hopefully this will work out. Hopefully this will work out. But I don't know if you're like me, but I'm increasingly thinking, hold on a minute, I've got kids. Should we be looking to set up some totally different community with different values, different ethics, a true practice of democracy, fairness, true alliance with the planet and one another? I can't think about that on the scale of billions of people. That would be, mental illness back in town. But I think about it in terms of groups, little groups. Perhaps what we need is to look at templates for living. Different, not necessarily nomadic, maybe settled, but certainly discrete systems of living. In a way, it's as much anarchist as it is libertarian. I don't mean anarchist to mean chaos. I mean anarchist as in anarchism, democracy, wherever possible. The lateral power systems, horizontal power systems rather than vertical power systems. These are our resources, these are our challenges, this is our skill set, how shall we resolve it?
This is the armory. We can't go in there and film, but...
You won't let us film in there?
No, we can't go in there.
They've got a terrifying armory down in that nuclear bunker, and the fella there in the background who That poor guy, he's been recruited from the crowd who should be attacking the bunker. He's there in his combat pants, turning the gun on his fellows. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Whether it was my conversation with Yuval Noah Harari, in which he said that our current economic and technological systems are going to create an underclass, or whether it's this billionaire bunker balminess, the fact is you can only do this without dumb compliance. That's why Animal Farm is such a masterful allegory, that we are domesticated farm animals. Our energy is being used in the same way as if it were our milk or our wool. The only option we have is to awaken from the illusion of our disempowerment and refuse to cooperate. Non-cooperation and the creation of alternative systems. I don't know what kind of optimistic lunatic thinks you're going to be able to squeeze the kind of ideas required for real change through the toothpaste tube of democracy. It's always going to produce the same result. It's set up by the people that require the system to not alter. So it can never radically alter. Have you noticed yet that things ain't that different under Joe Biden than they were under Trump? No, he's going to do this thing where people are going to be taxed more. Well, let's see it. Let's see how radical it is. Let's see if Amazon and all of the companies that supported Biden's pursuit of office are like, yeah, this is a good idea. Tax us more. Tax us till we can't do what we do anymore. They're not going to do that. They are operating cooperatively. They are one thing. For all intents and purposes, there ain't no difference between them.
So it's called Sniper's Post down there. Is that
Yes,
for real? You got a sniper who could go in that post?
we do.
There seems to be no shortage of rich Americans afraid of the future.
Rich Americans afraid of the future. It's so weird, isn't it? Because that's the problem. We're going to solve this problem by carrying on in exactly the direction that got us in this situation. But luckily, we are armed.
These days, the fear market is booming.
You can't build them fast enough.
I can't build them fast enough right now.
How far out do you want to go before looking in? How far out do you want to go? We're building bunkers now. We're going to get ships take us up to the moon and that. I'm going to download my consciousness into an ant's egg. Like, start meditating. Start waking up. There are different... We could stop now. Everyone alive now is going to be dead in 100 years. Culture is a legacy and tradition. They're dead ideas revived continually by each new generation. You could just go, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do this. There are some beautiful, universal, perennial values that we must and ought preserve. But if we don't, like in your own life, if you don't respond to change, that's madness, isn't it? It's like if I'm carrying on now as a 45-year-old man with 2 children, how I was carrying on when I was 25 or 30 years old, that's mental illness. That's mental illness. We're doing that as a culture. We're trying to act like, hey, baby, this isn't Renaissance Florence. We're not there anymore. We're not in Paris in the 1920s. This is 2021. We're in serious trouble. It's time to awaken. It's time to respond to the reality of our time.
It's got everything a house does. It's just 20 feet underground.
Well, what about a tree or a window that's not looking at some worms? I mean, that's one of the main things I like about my house, is it's not 20 feet under the ground. That's like saying it does everything a leg does, except it's been chopped off and it's floating down the sea.
In the 60s, they only worried about the nuclear attacks from Cuba and Russia. Now we have to worry about biological attacks, or chemical warfare, terrorist threats, economic crash, nuclear fallout, nuclear threats from Korea and China. I mean, I hope it never happens, but mathematically, it all adds up to Armageddon.
Thanks for coming. It's been a lovely conversation, but we're probably going to give the position to someone a bit more optimistic.
Down here, Armageddon can wait.
Sit back and watch TV and enjoy it.
You can't enjoy Armageddon. It's a terrible, terrible disaster. The saddest thing of all being that it could be avoided. I mean, if you're the most fatalistic person and you think, well, ultimately, of course, all matter must dissipate and, you know, there is a point where the sun itself explodes. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'm not at war with the cosmos, but surely we as components of the cosmos, as any hack philosopher will tell you, there's, and indeed the film Nomadland, there's stardust in your body. With the Noah's flood is still happening, as Melville said. The Big Bang is still happening. The expansion of the universe is still happening. We are nature. We're not separate from nature. Let's get in alignment with nature rather than continually prioritizing abstract systems that are opposed from above onto nature, even at the expense of our own survival. In a sense, the billionaire bunker story versus the off-grid experience is capitalism showing its hand. The end game, if it comes to it, we're going underground, and not in a jam way. We're going underground in relative luxury while you pick your way through the bones and radioactive dust. So, having seen this, what we should all be thinking about is alternative systems that may indeed prevent Armageddon, rather than how we're going to cope after it. Perhaps if we set an example collectively, creating fairer democratic systems, show that we can all operate with one another, even if we have wacky, crazy, different beliefs and ways of dressing and worshipping or not worshipping, forming our own fair societies that are separate and abstract. I feel that sometimes we should, like the system, as you might call it, commercialism, corporatism, globalism, we should just treat it like some bully frozen out in the playground. Just don't talk to it anymore. Just don't vote in its elections. Just don't pay its taxes. Don't buy its products. It'll go away. Because if you keep confronting it all the time, although actually you are supposed to do that with bullies. Look, anyway, the bully analogy was going to break down eventually. My point is this: try to find new ways of surviving, try to evolve new systems, which are all going to involve personal awakening. There's no way of getting around that, because for me, if I'm going to live without all of my stuff, my precious tea towel, my former olive oil bottle, I'm going to have to change. I'm going to have to break out of my own prisons, my own systems of control that are clearly linked into the ones that dominate us. And you are too. Let's try and prevent Armageddon. That's the main message of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, why not press like? Please comment, I read the comments, and sign up to my mailing list at russellbrand.com so we can start evolving and developing this system in this society. I do live calls, like one every week, or one every 2 weeks actually, completely free, do it in different time zones. You can get on the mailing list, sign up to it, and you can come on there, ask questions, chat to me. Thanks for watching the video. See you out there in Nomadland.